لهامني محيا لمؤنا محيا نيايش محيا هفا مهدا محيا نسوور
There was an all-Indian professional football team during the 1920s in Oklahoma. They came together to form the Hominy Indians. The team was originated and financed by two Osage brothers, Ira and Otto Hamilton. The Osages were considered the richest people in the world at the time because of their oil rights. Hominy, Oklahoma is a small town on the Osage Reservation. These true events took place from 1920 through 1933. The players were gathered from all over the United States, whoever could or would or wanted to play. 11 different tribes were represented. Some members played for one game, some for years. Some didn't even know how to play football. Against the backdrop of the lawless years during the Osage Reign of Terror, where hundreds of Indians were dying mysterious deaths, this story traces the team's triumphs and struggles. John Levi, Arapaho, was known by his nickname of Charging Buffalo and is one of the greatest line plungers and forward passers for the Hominy Indians. He was called the greatest athlete by Jim Thorpe. He played for Haskell Institute and was a huge financial draw at the time for the Hominy Indians. They played on fields. Some were just chalked off areas of grass, to a stadium seating thousands of people, from obscurity through a 10-year winning streak. They won 47 consecutive games, in which time they had never been beaten, not even tied. In 1925, they were named state champions and competed against teams in Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. The climax in their career was when they played against the New York Giants the day after Christmas, December 26, 1927. The team didn't use buses, but a caravan of touring cars, Marmons, Fords, and Pierce Arrows. When playing away from home, the players would dress in their regalia and put on a powwow before a game to drum up an audience and some extra cash. If a certain player, like John Levi, excelled in the game or made a spectacular play, the crowd would pass around a flour sack, collect money, and give it to the player. The compelling New York Giants game had a huge wager on it. Over $1 million was bet by some Osages, but for the Giants to win. At halftime, the Hominy Indians were losing against the world champions. What happened during the halftime, perhaps by the coach to inspire this team to dig deep, is a speech so motivating that it will be used in locker rooms for generations to come. Why were these men such natural athletes, and what made them true warriors? Was it genetics? Super DNA? They were beating the white man at their own game. In a tale of David versus Goliath, John and the other members weren't just playing a game. They were fighting for their ancestors who sacrificed their lives so that the next generation could survive. They were fighting a modern-day game of war, and the Indians won.
The Hominy Indians triumphed over the New York Giants yesterday, 13-6, in a hard-fought, spectacular game at the high school field. The New York Giants, using Vic Miller, local athlete, Herb McKenzie, and Rudy Comstock to take the places of several of the regulars who failed to arrive in time for the fray, flashed a brilliant passing game, which undoubtedly would have meant a victory if Dutch Hill had been himself. Dutch dropped 4 perfect passes in the first quarter that would have been good for substantial gains had he been playing his customary flashy game. It took Ben Hobson, giant half, to furnish the thrills of the encounter. Hobson played a smashing game, taking Captain Hendricks' passes on the run and smashing through the line with regularity. Hobson showed that he was the real football player that he was purported to be, tackling hard, showing a playing spirit that is seldom seen on pro teams. In the second quarter, Hobson caught one of Kendrick's passes and galloped 20 yards where he was downed on the 5-yard line. Following this, he took the ball on an off-tackle play and crashed over for the Giants' only touchdown. Comstock played a wonderful game, making beautiful tackles behind the line and stopping the great John Levi time after time. Vic Miller, who was recruited from the wrestling ranks, showed the boys how football was played in Texas and won the applause of the entire crowd by his hard tackling and strong line work. The much-heralded John Levi was in there fighting and plunging for the Indians and showed that he was truly an All-American player. Levi's drives were the feature of the game. His bullet-like passes, coupled with his smashing drives, were responsible for the Hominy victory. In the third quarter, Levi threw a 60-yard pass to Pappy, who made a beautiful running catch on the goal line for the Indians' second counter. Their first score came in the first quarter when a fleet Indian end snatched a pass from the air after Hill, for the Giants, had fumbled and raced 50 yards for a touchdown. Nix, Pappy, George, and John Levi played a bang-up game for the Indians, while Ben Hobson, Comstock, and Miller shone with equal brilliance for the Giants. 11 men such as Hobson playing against 11 men such as Levi would present about the best football game that could possibly be assembled. Whitey Shelton, Indian half, was handicapped by a bad leg, but returned punts and circled the ends in his flashy, speedy style that has earned him the name of the fastest back in Southern pro football. The game was a fitting climax to the football season in Oklahoma, with fair weather and a large crowd. The Giants and Indians flashed a good game of football that kept the sidelines in doubt as to the outcome until the final whistle.
They call themselves the Nilgashka, or those who dwell in the middle waters. The name Osage comes from the English corruption of the word Wasashi, which is one of the two original beings who descended from the upper world and were divided into two sections: Sishu, the peace people, and the Wasashi, the war people.
In Osage territory, they had the Moshon Nikita. Nowadays they say Moshon Kashe. But the protector of the land, Moshon Kashe. For probably a couple thousand years, the Moshon Kashe had been patrolling Osage hunting territory. Well, anyone, and this is true of all Indian tribes, not just the Osage, I say all, but hunting tribes, to hunt without permission in another Indian's territory was a death penalty. That's death sentence. No quarter. Men, women, children, the whole, everyone was killed. If you steal my food and condemn me to death, you die.
We were at one time at war with all the tribes that surrounded us, and it was primarily because they're keeping their land for themselves. They owned a huge territory that covered almost all of Missouri, the northern half of Arkansas, a big northeast and southeastern part of Oklahoma, and a big chunk of, I'd say, the eastern half of Kansas. They control that area. In order to sustain a large, healthy population, you need to, they were primarily hunters and the women were horticulturists. And so to protect their land, they had to keep people off of it. And so in order to keep people off of it, you had to resort to violence so you would survive. You didn't want another group of people coming in and like slaughtering all the deer and the buffalo and things like that when you needed them for yourself.
The leader of an Osage war party did not fight. That was not his function. In fact, he traveled separate from the men. His function was to pray for forgiveness for the act they were about to commit. The old people, the Niki Tonka, the ancient ones, life and death went together, as they put it. We walk the spirit path as we live. We're dying as we live. It was a pretty profound thought, but remember, they were masters in the philosophy of life, to live. See, the world, Wakanta, the Creator, who's everywhere. He's here, he's here, he's there, all over. The Creator, sovereign being of the universe. They have many terms they describe as Wakanta.